Okay, this is the table translation homework. I'm going to do one question from each section of the homework. So let's go to number 2. Number 2 says the table shows the amount it costs to rock climb at an indoor rock climbing facility based on the number of hours. Complete the table and then write a rule to find the amount charged to the rock climb for X amount of hours. So what we want to do is figure out what the pattern is. What do we do to the X variable to get the Y? So since the numbers are increasing, that means I'm either adding something or I'm multiplying by something. So I'm going to start with adding. If I try 1 plus 12 equals 13, it would have to work for all of them. So if I do plus 12 here, 2 plus 12 is 14. So that's not going to work. So that means I'm going to have to do multiplication. So in order to get from 1 to 13, I'm going to multiply by 13. I'm going to check if that works for the other ones. 2 times 13 is 26. 3 times 13 is 39, and that is working. So then I'm going to do 6 times 13. And if you need to stack those numbers, do it right underneath. 13 times 6 would be 78. 7 times 13 would be 91. And X times 13, you can either write as X times 13 or 13X. Okay, now there's a couple questions. We have to write the rule. So your rule should start, what are we doing to X to get Y? Remember, your equation or your rule must have an equal sign. So we multiplied by 13, so I'm going to write that right next to the X value. So we could figure out any Y value if we know the X value. So they said, how much will it cost to rock climb for 8 hours? In order to figure that out, we're going to take the number of hours, multiply it by 13. So off to the side, do 13 times 8. And it would be 104. All right, the next section of your homework is just identifying independent and dependent variables. So for this one, let's flip to number 2 also. It's on the next page. It says, Alyssa's making costumes for a play. The amount of material she will need for the costumes versus how many performers are in the play. Okay, so if M is the amount of material and P is the number of performers, we have to decide which one depends on the other. So if I was wondering how much material to get, that would depend on how many performers I had to make the costumes for. So that would make this my dependent variable, and the number of performers is the independent variable. Again, the reason that that's dependent is because the amount of material depends on how many costumes I have to make for the number of performers in the play. Okay, next section, same thing, labeling independent and dependent. So let's look at the second one again. The number of flowers in a bouquet and the cost of the bouquet. So if I were to try and figure out independent and dependent, you need to ask yourself, which part, the number of flowers or the cost, what depends on the other? So usually when you go to a florist, the cost depends on how many flowers you want in your arrangement. So this would be the dependent variable, and this would be your independent variable. All right, last section of your homework is to answer the following questions by filling in a table, and then again, identify the variables. So number 2 says, a miniature golf course has a special group rate. You can pay $20 plus $4 per person when you have a group of 5 or more friends. Let F be the number of friends. So I'm going to put F is the number of friends. That'll be the first part of your table. Then they said C is going to be the cost. Okay. Then we're going to have to label independent and dependent and write an equation. They want us to make a table to show the cost for 5 to 12 friends. So that tells us I'm going to start at 5 friends, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I'll have to make a 12th right there. Okay, so we know if there's at least 5 friends, we're going to have to pay $20 plus $4 per person. So if we start with 5, I'm going to substitute the 5 in. So my cost is going to be 20 plus 4 times 5, which is 20. So 20 plus 20 is $40. You're going to do the same rule or equation for each of these, except for now we're going to substitute in 6 for 6 friends. So 20 plus 24 is 44. 20 plus 4 times 7 would be 20 plus 28, 48. And I'll let you guys fill in the rest of the table by yourself. You do need to figure out which is the independent and which is the dependent variable. So, does your cost depend on the number of friends, or do the number of friends depend on your cost? So hopefully you're asking yourself that question and you realize the cost that you're going to pay is going to depend on how many friends. So the cost is dependent, and the number of friends would be your independent variable. Your equation you can get right from here. You're taking $20, that's a flat rate for 5 or more friends, plus you have to add on $4 per person. So we would leave that blank, and I'm going to put in a variable. They said F for friends, so I'm going to say 4F will equal C, which is the total cost.